We are live, everyone. Welcome to Series 21, Challenges in Space. This show today is dedicated and led by our mentors. Today they will be sharing their challenges that they had to overcome and the actions and how to tackle these challenges today. Please welcome everyone. Chille Bergstrom from Montreal, Canada today. Nadya Khan from the United Kingdom. And Castro, she's Brazilian. And Nelly from Nigeria. Without further ado, I am going to hand the floor straight to Chille. He's going to be our first speaker today. Chille Bergstrom, he is a space futurist for the MIT Media Lab's Space Exploration Initiative. He is also a lead on secondary propulsion, co-lead on linear induction motors for MIT's Hyperloop team competition for SpaceX. He is also an advisor and consultant in microfabrication of energy harvester for cardiac devices. I know he has his own one. And he's also a current researcher on 3D printed inflatable habitats under advisors, astronauts, Dr. Jeffrey Hoffman from MIT Aerospace and Dr. Chris McKay from NASA Ames. Chille is also a CTO of KIM Industries, which stands for Kids Inventing Machines, and founder of Children's Space Agency. Chille is presenting from Montreal today. So the floor is yours, Chille.
Hi, I'm Chille. I'm 13 and neurodivergent. As an autistic human, I have asynchronous brain development, meaning different parts of my brain develop at different speeds. Regardless, all of our brains keep growing until an age of 25 years, so I'm only halfway there. Please do not refer to me personally using your terms Asperger's, or refer to autistics with functioning labels like high or low. I know Greta Thunberg uses the term Asperger's, but she also said to listen to the scientist. So as a scientist, I recommend just accepting that we exist exactly as we are, just another neurodivergent human on planet Earth. Guten Tag, Helen. I am super excited to be back in Germany, even if it is only virtually. It was 1 year ago that I presented my work at Hoffen City University in Hamburg for their City Science Summit, Imagining a World Without. I don't think that anyone at the summit predicted going without so many things so soon. I think about that summit and everything that I learned each and every day, since it was my first time speaking at a university in Germany. They honored me afterwards by insisting that I have my first beer with them, non-alcoholic, of course. I did not get here alone. MIT offers their entire freshman year, along with most of their courses, including graduate level courses, for free online. I passed the Introduction to Aerospace Engineering course 1600 when I was 8 years old. Then I returned to take it again when I was 10 because my astronaut professor, Jeff Hoffman, added a course called Engineering the Space Shuttle. My other favorite course was put out by Delft University of Technology, which was Introduction to Aerospace Structures and Materials. While I was doing the work needed to become an aerospace engineer at an early age, I was encouraged and supported not by my peers in second or third or fourth grade. I was supported by a team of space influencers, astronauts, rocket scientists, poets of code-fighting algorithmic bias, aquanauts, and aerospace medicine physicians. A large part of NASA's mission statement includes inspiring the next generation. I first visited NASA Ames when I was 7 years old, which is what led me to take aerospace engineering courses originally. I was annoyed by all of these adults always asking me if I wanted to be an astronaut. I did not. I wanted to be an aerospace engineer, so I became one. Starting with David Newman's textbook, I borrowed from the library, titled interactive aerospace and engineering design. It will be free. Sorry, it will be free to the people. It will be anyway, along with the links to various EDX and MIT courses available online at the end of the deck. I was asked to be MIT's Media Lab Space Futurist and Ambassador, and was invited to present my theory that disabilities may become hyperabilities in space at MIT during the 50th anniversary of the Apollo during MIT Space Week. That's when I finally got to meet my professor in person. He sat with me during a break, and I showed him my Sawyer samples from Dr. Chris McKay at NASA Ames. I told him the research I wanted to do. Spoiler alert, Professor Hoffman is now officially my advisor, and just approved the same research proposal that I have been thinking about for the past 5 years. So this year, I'll be working with my advisors from MIT and NASA as I work on 3D printed inflatable habitats using Mars and lunar regular soil for sustainability in space. And what exactly do I mean when I say that disabilities could be hyperabilities in space? Let's imagine that you were on a 3-year mission to Mars, with 6 months to travel there and 6 months back. Who would you choose as your partner? Olympic athlete Usain Bolt, or this guy that lives in his mother's basement? If you choose Usain Bolt as your mission partner, your partner would be dead in a matter of days. Microgravity lowers your heart rate, and because Usain Bolt's resting heart rate is so low, that space would become insurvivable for his human body. But there are many conditions on Earth that may be of great benefit in space. Astronauts have to exercise for hours every day to keep their muscles firing. Conditions like cerebral palsy, when on Earth, have muscles firing that are constantly contracting and firing. So that would mean an astronaut with CP may be able to spend those excellent hours fulfilling scientific research instead of strapped onto an exercise machine, especially because astronauts on the ISS have almost every minute of their lives scheduled. But where did I get this idea? Why did I start thinking of what was possible in space instead of impossible? Probably because I spent so much of my life in the hospital. I've had 3 open heart surgeries and 18 surgeries in total. During the past 13 years that I have been residing on this planet, it hurts me to walk every day. It's a struggle to speak. My vocal cord was paralyzed during an open heart surgery. I've had 3 additional surgeries just to repair the damage. I've had to endure electrostimulation just to talk. I really want to be a good speaker, but I struggle with speaking so much. Nothing is easy. Nothing is without pain and suffering. Trauma is normal. I was 4 years old when I started to create my own solutions to problems. I would dream up the new ways to make medical tape not hurt as much when it was removed. And I looked to nature to provide the answers with things like spider silk. When my doctor said that I needed to use a wheelchair, I used a scooter instead, and then later a Segway. But it wasn't just my medical experiences that changed me. People have asked me if I knew that I would never go to space with my heart condition. It confused me when I heard that, because even as an 8-year-old, I knew that it was possible that my broken and repaired heart was better than a heart that had zero backup. So I started thinking, if healthy athletes couldn't handle the effects of microgravity on their hearts, and astronauts are traditionally chosen as the perfect specimens of health, would a pacemaker help them? Would an astronaut be willing to disable themselves to survive in space? But I'm just getting started with my education. So I went to work. This is the actual pacemaker that kept me alive for the first 5 years of my life. To solve the issue of children not needing to have their pacemaker batteries die, requiring another open heart surgery, it was important to invent a new kind of pacemaker, one that could harvest the body's own energy. And an aerospace engineer, I'm obsessed with big problems. Infinite energy, a closed circuit, warp speed, how to have zero emissions in rocketry when a rocket by definition is emissions. Rewriting the laws of thermodynamics. You know, this is stuff I worked on as I ate my breakfast cereal in the morning. So I was invited by Dr. Nadya to take a graduate level course at MIT in microfabrication. I joined forces with a colleague at the University of Connecticut because his dream was to also have Dr. Dagdavarian as his mentor. And in August of 2019, I became the advisor to Vaults On. And I'm proud to say that our new pacemaker is a finalist in the Mass Challenge. Our pacemaker lasts for the lifetime of the patient, completely eliminated the need for a battery at all. The pacemaker harvests its own energy from each heartbeat. And powers the pacemaker, then that tells the heart to beat. We are implanting it on 2 swine starting in January of 2021. So there it was, a theory, nothing more. But because it was Space Week at MIT in 2019, I got to hear Dr. Danielle Woods speak about her Space Enabled group at the Media Lab. It was a brand new group, and Dr. Wood has a PhD in aerospace engineering from MIT. But the group didn't have any rocket scientists except for Dr. Wood, of course. No, it had artists, Imagineers from Disney, and others working together to make life better here on Earth through space. And she introduced me to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There were 17 of them, and because of Dr. Wood's brilliance, I have vowed to never take on a project that does not meet or exceed the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I used to write Dr. Wood these long emails about plans for the future. I suggested that all students at MIT should be introduced to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that if we collectively all chose projects that would meet one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we could reach them. I was also bothered by the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs Space Generation Council for defining youth as ages 18 to 35. So all of their space program opportunities weren't even available to me. So Dr. Wood introduced me to the head of the Space Council, who shut me down immediately. It's okay because I get shut down all the time, but at IAC in Washington, D.C. in October of 2019, I asked during a panel if the UN would please consider changing the definition of youth. So consider changing so the actual youth on the planet could participate in the activities. I'm neurodivergent and I have a rather obvious speech impediment. So when I was moderating the panel, the panel couldn't understand me. So I became anxious and I felt like I was shutting down. I was thinking, it's stupid, I'm stupid, no one cares. Then Dr. Wood took the microphone and asked if she could speak for a colleague because she knew what I was trying to say. She stood on a global stage and believed in my own agency to think of my own thoughts, have my own ideas, and told the attendees of the confidence that my thoughts and my questions were valid. If Dr. Wood didn't use my rumors, she wouldn't have known what was important to me. She didn't talk to me or include me in her amazing circles. She wouldn't have known about my speaking difficulty, but I was able to know, she wouldn't have known about my speaking difficulty. But I was able to participate meaningfully at the IAC Congress because I was surrounded by leaders and mentors who had had my back since we had known each other for years. I began networking with colleagues at NASA, Boeing, and MIT since I was 7. Keep your relationships going. Dr. Shonda Pandya is one of the leading aerospace and extreme medicine doctors in the world. Let me tell you about Dr. Pandya, because she is goals. There is nothing that she cannot do. She is an aquanaut, a physician, a black belt martial artist, an astronaut, a fighter pilot, an engineer, a scientist. She studies and teaches extreme medicine in harsh conditions. I'm an aerospace engineer, but my goal is to go to medical school and become an aerospace medicine doctor just like her. So how do we connect? I asked Dr. Pandya if she would be willing to watch my presentation on disabilities and cyberabilities in space, instead of giving me feedback. She ever so kindly watched it and wrote me back feedback. And she invited me to present my theory to her life science group of astronauts and physicists. The interesting thing about Dr. Pandya is that she is a safe place for me to fail. She takes the time to give me expert guidance on solutions, answering my questions, spending time on things that are important to me, sending me interesting and relevant articles, and encouraging me to keep trying. See? Just keep going. Failure should be expected. Congratulate yourself for failing. A struggle is okay. My struggles lead me to work on inventing a new pacemaker, to study with geniuses like Dr. Yana Dagdavarian. I got to experience everyday life in a real working lab, producing cutting-edge research. I may be the only one of my Zoomer generation to even know what it's like, but now, due to COVID, because of cognitive development, I know how to create an organized, efficient lab that is sustainable and under budget. I learned how she ordered supplies and took inventory on how everything had its own place. I followed her blogs afterwards to see how she was able to ramp up and ramp down her research in March. During a time where many were losing their experiments, she did not. Once again, I learned from the best. The classwork she also uses for microfabrication level classes and available, and they're free, and you can see that on the available, and you can see that at the end of the slide. In order to be a good mentee, you have to be a good mentor. Perspective and self-reflection can go a long way to bettering the world. That's why I believe that all students and lifelong learners need to be introduced to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I started a company that year, Kim Industries, which stands for Kids Inventing Machines. And I truly believe that children can identify real-world problems within their own communities and begin to engineer solutions using public-private partnerships so that we can collectively join forces to meet and exceed the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Let's come together as a community of scientists and change makers to teach how they really think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chille, for this amazing presentation. Thank you for coming to the show, sharing your trajectories and showing us and teaching us that the impossible is possible, and especially also tributing each and every one of the mentors that helped you. And thank you for inspiring us to that your struggles became your strength to innovate. So thank you so much. Thank you also to your mother. I think she's here, right? Ali Bergstrom, thank you for giving us permission to have your beautiful son here. So I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much. Any questions? I think you're going to leave the show now, Ali. Are you able to do any questions or?
Yes. Yes, we can do questions.
Would you like to have the questions now or wait till the second half of the show?
I would rather wait if that's okay with you.
Okay, cool. All right, then we continue with Nelly. Nelly, Helen Ebruka. She is an elected prospective member of the International Institute of Space Law and a final year law student of the University of Calabar, Nigeria. She's very interested in space law and policy. She was recently listed by Space in Africa as one of the top 10 under 30 class of 2020 young innovators contributing to the growth of African space industry, and was the pioneer president of the International Law Student Association of the University of Calabar. I know you have prepared something for us, your story about how you overcome this space industry.
Okay. I would like to start by appreciating the Space4Women Show for inviting me to be a panelist today to speak as one of the mentees and to share my experience. I'm really grateful. And I'm also very thankful to my mentor, Ms. Anna Reza. She's been such an inspiration, and she's also been very helpful in my space journey this year. So I am going to be sharing few experiences. I don't have much to say. So I tried to do the space story from near the Sahara because I'm Nigerian and we're close to the Sahara Desert. So yes, so I'm just going to start right away. So here, Okay, so for me, joining the space community and being interested in space started when I was young. I personally love space. I love stargazing, so it was just something I love doing naturally. I didn't have any like career interest or anything of that sort. So it was just me alone until in my second year in the university, I found out about space law, and I started telling my senior colleagues and my friends that, oh, there's this fascinating field of law I really like, space law. And nobody was really interested, including my professors. Nobody took it serious because it sounded so abstract, like it wasn't practical like other conventional fields of law here in Nigeria. So it was me alone. And then I decided to join to participate in the Manfred Lack Space Law competition. I think that was in 2018 when I found out about the competition. But I had little support, very little support from people around me. I was able to get a team of students that also, they were interested in international law, not particularly space law. They were interested in particular law. So we decided to um, try and participate in the competition, and we spoke to my university, and they were skeptical at first, but then when they saw that we were very persistent and we really wanted to participate in the competition, they were like, okay. They gave us the permission, like my faculty gave us permission to register under like with my university's name as competitors for the 2019 round. So that was how I actually like fully joined the space community. It's quite recent, about 2 years ago. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so far I've been trying to not just after registering for Manfred Lags, I found out that that's like the beginning of my space journey, and that was not like the height of it. It was like the beginning when I started interacting with other people in the African space community. I met really amazing people like Miss Rumba Samanga. She actually led the team that made Africa win the space law competition world finals for the very first time, and I'm very happy she's here. And so I started lending a hand to help space. Like if you see the picture there, I organized a local astronomy and space science competition in my region in Nigeria for the very first time, and it was very interesting. People were really excited, like the students were very excited because some of them, they're interested in space, but due to the environment we are, people don't take space very seriously, like in America and other climes where space is such a big deal. Here it's as though you're dreaming, you're not on earth at all. Like, so it was really interesting for the kids. And I also try to get other young people involved in space by always talking about it, by always giving them information like things happening worldwide about space. So I started helping to create space awareness in my local community and also in my university. I created a space law club, and I found that a lot of students were interested in emerging fields of law like space law and the rest. So that's how I've been able to like impact my immediate community. Next slide. Okay, so far I won the regional rounds for Manfred last year, May. I and my team, and at the World Finals in Washington, D.C., became second. I also established a non-governmental organization, registered it here in my country. And basically what we do is we promote space education for young people, and we also create space awareness here in Nigeria and Africa. We try to get involved and to assist and help as much as we can in growing the African space industry that's really coming up. And I volunteer for different space organizations like Space Hub Africa. It's also dedicated to space awareness, and I'm a member of Space Generation Advisory Council. I'm an active volunteer for SGSC and other space-related organizations. Wherever I can help, whenever I am called to assist with any space-related program in my community, I'm always there. And I'm also very happy that I was nominated and I got awarded as top 10 under 30 in the African space industry for the class of 2020. So just on the side, I would like to say what a person can gain from the space law niche as a student in Nigeria or in Africa generally, just in case there's an African law student listening or any African person interested in space law. So it's an emerging and very exciting field of law. And it's personally, I see it as a challenge for legal research, and it has really broadened my knowledge of international law. While studying space law, I just get to understand other fields of law better. Maybe it's just me, but it has really helped me. And it gave me an opportunity to be a part of the growing African space industry. I was able to attend the last African Space Youth Forum that held in Ethiopia, and I learned a lot too. It has increased my professional network and international exposure. Like, I'm here talking to people from all over the world. That doesn't really happen every day. So it's really exciting for me. Next slide. Okay, yes. So what are the challenges that I faced as a space enthusiast in a developing country, and also as a space mentee here in this program? The first is the naysayers. So the issue is there's little or zero motivation from people in your immediate environment if you're interested in space in this part of the world. People hardly tell you, oh, go for it. This is beautiful. You find people like that, but it's like 1 out of 10. So even when you are trying your best, you always find people that try to like put you down, and they want you to do conventional law practice and do the conventional things people are involved in here. So you have so many naysayers. And then the second challenge that I faced personally was lack of resources, all kinds of resources. They weren't available. Financial resources to maybe travel, participate in competitions, get books and things like that. There were hardly any resources. And then academic resources. Although for the academic resources, I'm talking about having like physical lectures and physical people that are already experts in that field of law around you. Like it's really difficult to find them. So you always have to resort to online materials and online programs. Another challenge I faced personally is the mindset and my personal mindset and insecurities, because I felt like, why should I really be interested in space awareness and space program? Although I'm like, what would they think about me? What would they say about me? Maybe they'll think I'm trying to be something I'm not, or I'm trying to, I don't know how to put it, but I just personally had a lot of insecurities at the back of my mind before I finally decided to go in fully in 2018 and get involved. I've been reading about the space program and satellite being launched in Africa and what we're doing to try to better the lives of people here in Africa through space. But I didn't know how to get into it because I was scared. So that was one of the challenges I faced. And then finally, lack of interest by the government and the public. So like I said, not just the naysayers, you also have a system where your government, your university, and the public institutions, they don't really take this space issue seriously. So they don't take space seriously, like due to the corruption and the issues with the system. They'll always tell you they're trying to handle other pressing issues like crime and economic challenges the people are facing, and then where does space exploration come in, because they don't have the proper perspective and understanding of how space is beneficial to people every single day. So that was one of the challenges I faced. So on this other side of the slide, I just put in my strategy for winning. So how did I overcome all of this? So for the naysayers, I had to be self-motivated. Every single day, I had to look for creative ways to believe in myself and believe that what I'm interested in is valid and my dreams are valid and that I can do that. So I had to be self-motivated. So even if everyone around me wasn't supporting me at first, I just had to keep doing what I was doing. And then for lack of resources, I was just persistent, I was optimistic, and I had to be very creative. So I just kept telling them that this is important and this is true. And then finally we started gaining support little by little. And I'm really excited now because now people are beginning to appreciate what I do for the space community here in Africa. And it was just true persistence. And optimism. For my mindset and insecurities, I had to have faith and focus. I'm a person of faith, so I just trusted God that what the vision he has and the vision he has placed in my heart is good and is great, and I had to believe in myself that way. And then for the government, I engaged in appropriate engagement and dialogue. So I had to go through the system. I'm heavily involved in student politics and student leadership in my country. So that gave me an edge because I now knew how it works. If you want to get funding from them, or if you want to get them to support you to maybe do a program, this is how you go. So I had to go through the right channel to get the attention of the government and the public here. So finally, the next chapter of my space story. I still have a lot of dreams and visions and a lot of things yet that I want to accomplish in in the space industry and from my personal and professional life. I hope to graduate really soon by next year and pursue my LLM and space law at the Lady University. I really want to go into space policy and diplomacy, because over here in Africa, we have countries that are beginning to show interest more and more every day in the space industry and what's happening in the space sector. And these countries would need to know how to relate internationally, continentally here in Africa and with other countries in the world. So I'm interested in learning more about space diplomacy and how through dialogue and continuous international committee we can foster the growth of space here in Africa. And then finally, I want to support Space for Good, using space resources and space tech to solve the socio-economic problems in my community in Africa. Our challenges are different from the challenges in the Western world. So we fully can't go into space exploration for the sake of exploration. Whatever we're doing, we have to think about how it benefits the normal everyday Africans suffering or going to poverty. So my focus will be on space for societal development, for solving our economic and technological problems. And that is where I want to focus in the near future, by supporting them with my resources, with my network and what I know, and through space policy and law generally. So I think that is everything. It's left with one slide.
Thank you so much, Nelly, for sharing your space challenge journey and your secret sauce for winning through the Naysayers. Your classical example of how a woman from a developing country can make it through adding value and serving through the community. Thank you for highlighting that to us, and congratulations for all of the competition and the things that you are planning to have in store. I know you have a lot of things coming. Thank you so much, and we'll continue with the next speaker. That's going to be Miss Ana Castro from Brazil. Ana Castro is an aerospace engineer from Brazil and just finished her master's degree in space law policy in China. On her journey, Ana has also gained valuable experience in the space sector as an intern at the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. Ana was the first South American to join the Euromoon Mars team during the second campaign of the analog space mission, Euromoon Mars 2 in 2019, where she acted as chief crew engineer, and she's also a team member of the Space4Women Show. The floor is yours, Ana Castro.
Thank you, Ian. Let me share my screen. Thank you, Nelly and Chille, for sharing your stories as well. I believe my story is much closer to Nelly because I'm from Brazil, a developing country, and I'd like to share the real, honest story of how I came into the place I am today, which I believe can be really helpful if someone is going through the same things. So, of course, as Ian just mentioned, I did all these things, I had all these accomplishments, and that is the glamorous part of the story. And what I want to show today is the real part, the other part that we don't usually talk about. So about me, as he said, I'm from Brazil. I have a degree in aerospace engineering. I just finished my master's degree in space law and policy, and I did an internship at the United Nations Office for Aerospace Affairs, and I was also an analog astronaut. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. And by that, I mean that when we want to be honest and really show how we achieve those things, we have to talk about all this bottom part here of the iceberg, which is the non-glamorous side of the story. But without these, we cannot have the achievements. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm from Brasilia. Brazil is the capital of Brazil. It's a relatively small city. It's a very good city. I had a very good upbringing, childhood. I have 3 other sisters, so we are 4 siblings, and life there was very nice. My family is not poor, but we come from a very modest financial background. So I had to go to public schools in Brazil, and I was really lucky because throughout my journey, I could learn English and Spanish for free in my city. I also had a full scholarship to learn French in Alliance Française. And also once a week, we went to special school to study music, sports, arts, theater. In that sense, I think I was privileged because that is not the reality of everyone that goes to public schools in Brazil. And even though I wasn't from a good public school, and I was always a good student, I had good grades, not in math. Sometimes I had terrible grades in mathematics. And even though we were from good schools, there is still a very huge gap from what we get as an education compared to private schools. So when you come from a public schools here in this cartoon, you can see there, you have to overcome more, you have to build your own bridge if you want to go to university. And that's kind of what happened to me. So I graduated from high school in 2019, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, to be honest. I had an idea, I think I want to go to engineering, I liked space, but there was no aerospace engineering in my city. And after I graduated from high school, we did this exam to be admitted at university. It's called vestibular. So after 3 years studying high school and taking 2 years exam, I didn't pass. And then I said, okay, I'll try again because I didn't have any other option. Then maybe industrial design, maybe something that is not so difficult, because I really thought I could not pass on vestibular to engineering because it was really hard. But then I studied for 1 semester and take 2 days, full day of exam, and I didn't pass again. And I said, okay, maybe next time I'm getting more experience, maybe I can do it. So another 6 months of studies, those 2 days of exams, and I didn't pass either. And that happened for quite a few times until eventually aerospace engineering was open in my university. And that really resonated in me. I say, yeah, that's really what I want to do. And that really changed that semester because I put all my extra effort on it. And finally, I was admitted at the University of Brasilia. University of Brasilia is one of the top 10 in Latin America, and it is really a great university. And I was so happy to be selected, or to be able to study there. And my whole family was really happy. And they said that aerospace engineering was growing in Brazil, that when I graduated, I'll be one of the first employed women in this sector. And I was super happy. But the reality was different. So this was our campus, and this is our library. We had at each semester 200 new students, and was the library that we shared. These were our labs, and a student canteen was very, very poor conditions, parking space. So besides being a new field, new course, a campus that was being structured, all these challenges, because it was a different city, it was very dangerous to go there. So many people got robbed, and I had to face that through 5 years of my life. But I knew that what I wanted to do, so I told myself that I just needed to endure it and keep going. And that changed my idea of university when in 2014 I participated in the Science Without Borders exchange program. It was a program developed by the government to really try to train our students, taking them abroad and how can I say, really increasing the level of education in Brazil. And it was a great program because the government paid for everything. And with that, I had the opportunity to study in one of the 50 best universities in the world, which was the University of Glasgow. And that changed my whole view of education, of life, what I wanted to do. And it was really a dream coming true that without the government, I could not do it. Unfortunately, the program was over a few years after I went there, which is a shame because many people could benefit from that as well. But then I returned to my city with my mind was completely changed. I knew how I was to study in a top level university. I knew I could achieve more. I felt so motivated even to do my best and to be on the top places in the world in the space industry. But the reality again was different. In 2015, my father died. So the financial situation in my home was even more complicated. So I had to do full-time university. Also, I took a job to support my family, also to support myself. And I was also trying to work out during the day so my health wouldn't decrease. And at the same time, because I knew my university was not so great compared to the international universities, I knew I had to do more. So at the same time, I was participating in a junior company and scientific projects, and it was the most exhausting periods of my life. But I knew that I need to keep going on. I didn't have any other choice, but I felt like giving up many times. But then to graduate, I needed to do an internship. It was a mandatory internship, and this internship needed to be in the space industry in Brazil. In 2016, the economy was starting to become really bad, and I emailed 180 companies. I sent email to 180 companies trying to get an internship, and I applied to many international loans as well, but I could not afford that going there without being paid, and only 2 of them answered. It was again a very hard period, and it's really it exhausts you, and you think, why am I doing that? But we needed to keep moving on. So eventually I found an internship within my own university, and I graduated. From 200 students in my class, only 5 graduated, and I was me and Diandra, we were the first females to graduate in the aerospace engineering course in the University of Brasilia. And after graduation, I said, okay, I can either start a job or do a master's degree. So I applied for the best aerospace engineering school in Brazil, which is the Technological Institute of Aeronautics. And I didn't pass at first, and I was so devastated. I thought of giving up again. I said, this field is too complicated. I will not make it, not in Brazil, like there's no way. But then I said, okay, I've come so far. I just have to give it a little bit extra effort. I can do it. So I tried again, and I got accepted into the best one. But at the same time, I also got accepted to study Masters in Space Law and Policy in China. And I had to come to a really hard decision because I could study my aerospace engineering in Brazil in the best university, but that will mean that I'll have to keep working because no one would support me. And I'll have to do a PhD, and then maybe I'll work at university. I didn't have many other options if I stay here. Or I could do a slight change in course in my career and study space law and policy, and I thought that maybe could open up doors for me. So that's what I chose. I went to China, but again, it was full scholarship, but it didn't pay everything. It didn't pay the tickets. It didn't pay the first month and visa and transportation. At the time, I was already working a kind of bad job. That means that I got a minimum wage in Brazil was around this. And what I needed to get to go to China was around that. which was a lot for me, 2,000, more or less 2,000 US dollars in reais, more or less this. So I thought of giving up as well because I just didn't have the money. I did not have the money. My family could help, but it wouldn't be enough. But then I said, no, I came so far again. Let's try one more time. And then I started a fundraising. I went to the supermarket. I got some beers and chocolate, and I did a raffle, that everyone that donated something or bought a ticket will get a chance to win this. So I did that for a few months, and I got the money to go to China. It was really an amazing experience. And I said, okay, I am abroad. This is my time to really increase my level. I tried to be very active. So I was selected to be class leader of our class of space land policy. And I worked really hard, got good grades. And I was also selected to be part of the invited team of the Manfred Lachs Moot Court. Nelly participated. And I also got selected to go in many UNOSA conferences and trainings by university, and I really felt that okay, I'm getting momentum. My experience will get better, and then I found out that actually I could go to an internship at UNOSA, the United Nations Office for Aerospace Affairs, which is a very high-level place, and I got selected, but it was an unpaid full-time internship again. That meant that I had to get around €1,000 a month, plus tickets, plus insurance. That would be around $500, $3,000 a month. This would be Disney reais, and I just didn't have the money, and they didn't have any fundings, and I just started giving up against it. Okay, maybe it's not worth it. And during this time of the internship is the time all my friends were going to vacation, to nice beaches in Bali. So okay, maybe I just play it low, I just go travel again. But no, I said, okay, I came this far, let's try again. So I did a second fundraising. I convinced my university in China to help me out, and also some friends helped me. And with that, I managed to get the money to go to internship at UNOSA, and it was very, again, really valuable experience in the space sector. And that's when I met Sabrina Kerber. She introduced me to the Aeromon Mars team. And with that, I was selected to be part of an analog space mission with the European Space Agency. That also really was turning tables in my story, but that'll have to be for another time. Otherwise, I'll be talking here for half an hour. And maybe in the next show, I can share the second part of my journey. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your personal struggles. We all resonate with, the stories behind the scenes no one wants to talk about, Thank you for teaching us how to become resourceful through your various initiatives. Loved it. Thank you so much. Our last speaker, Nadya Khan. She's an award-winning scholar studying for a master's in space risk and disaster reduction at the UCL. Prior to studying for her master's, she completed a Hans in International Relations from Queen Mary University of London. Her thesis, Understanding Cooperation and Competition between States in Outer Space through the Meta-Geopolitics of Outer Space Paradigm. Welcome to the show. The floor is yours. You're gonna share your secret sauce about how she's the crowdfunding queen. Let's listen to her story here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. This show has, I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say, has changed the course of my life through the summer, and I'm really keen to kind of go into parts of my journey to hopefully inspire those who come from non-technical backgrounds to know that it's never too late, and it's possible for you to play a role in the space sector. So as it was mentioned, I'm studying for a master's in space risk and disaster reduction at UCL. Now you might be thinking, what is that all about? So we always talk a lot about space as being leveraged to tackle disasters on Earth, but as main part of my degree is actually looking at issues to do with disaster reduction of extreme space weather. So you can see on the side here, there is a small kind of, I would say, impression of an extreme space weather event where you can see the solar flares as well as a coronal mass ejection kind of colliding towards the Earth's magnetosphere. And that's a core part of my degree. So coming from international relations, and the title of the thesis I wrote to go into this was, as you can imagine, a challenge in itself. And I wanted to kind of put that out there just to give you an idea of where you can come from and where you can go in terms of just the kind of content that you cover in the space sector. At the moment, I'm also working as a spin intern at Bryce Space and Technology, which you might be aware of. And I'm very honored to have had the chance to go on the spin intern program, which is basically a space placement in industry sponsored by the UK Space Agency. And I also volunteer as a visiting researcher at the Center for a Spacefaring Civilization. I put a little logo there because I just find sometimes these symbols in our lives can be metaphors and really help to serve as projections for where you might end up. Because as a child, I had zero interest in space, but the picture right at the bottom there is actually of the National Space Station, which is in Leicester, which is where I'm from. And never in a million years did I think growing up I would be part of the space sector. And so I want to kind of unravel that mystery here and also share that secret sauce around my fundraising tactics. So I'm going to get into it now. Hopefully, yeah. So the start of my journey was in international relations. International relations for me as a degree, it wasn't my first choice. I wanted to study history and philosophy of science at UCL for many reasons, including some extreme personal circumstances involving domestic violence. I was actually not able to study that course during that year. And this is something that I'm really passionate about speaking about now. And I'm really keen to kind of show how you can go from something like international relations and then into space, but also how my personal circumstances got me there. My journey with the subject was difficult because I didn't have an interest in politics. I had an interest in science, and I had an interest in the impact of science on people and society. So I had to really think outside the box when it came to writing my thesis. And I chose to write about competition and cooperation between states because at the time we were experiencing a huge boom in the new space economy. And that was extremely exciting for me because I could see how this was going to transform the way society functioned. And I was also interested in seeing how that would create a cooperation between states through the UK Space Agency's International Partnership Programme. But as I mentioned slightly earlier, I was not interested in old theories written by old white men to help us understand the world today. And I still feel very strongly about this, which is why I chose a little bit of a quirkier paradigm, if you like, to understand this phenomena. As a result of making that choice and focusing on this case study, there was a mixed reaction to some of my ideas and interpretations of events, which really didn't help me because I was extremely passionate about this topic, and I had interviewed people from the UK Space Agency, the Hague Space Resources Working Group, ESA, and other academic experts. And for my work to not have been sort of given the credit that I so richly thought it deserved was a bit of an issue, and that did lead to an imposter syndrome for me. And I for definitely a good I would say 3 years suffered with that, and said to myself, you're not going to bother to go back into this area of your interest. You're not a technical person. This isn't for you. You don't understand international relations either. And it was just so that fate would have it that that summer, after I had finished my degree, I actually formed as part of the Space Generation Advisory Council's delegation to the UN Cobras. And I saw the very ideas that I had spoken about in my thesis come to life. And I guess that was a little feeling in me at the time, saying there's something right with what you're talking about, but it's just being misunderstood. And joining that Space Generation Advisory Council and kind of having them, you know, at the back of my mind, sort of observing the project was fundamental in kind of getting me to where I am today, which is still nowhere near where I want to be. But I wanted to kind of add that in there, that for some people it is a slow burner, and there aren't necessarily a series of events. It's just sometimes there are subconscious cues that exist that kind of help you to get to your journey, even if that's a couple of years too late. So I'm going to go into some of the challenges that I faced over these 3 years, which have kind of made my journey sort of prolonged rather than what I probably wanted it to be. So coming from a non-technical background, you, as many others speakers might have alluded to, have to be a little bit creative in your approach as to how you might fit into this world, because you don't have the astrophysics, you don't have the other sort of sciences to support what you're saying sometimes. So that I suffered with. I would go to events and I would, you know, hear people talk about all of these sort of algorithms, equations, and I just wouldn't have a clue about what they're talking about, and that would just turn me off completely. Being a woman of color, irrespective of whether you're from the global south or if you're from the global north, I think these terms are problematic, but they are used, is an issue, because you're still operating in a space which is dominated by men, and the way they think and behave and the kind of culture they create in the space sector is very different from, I think, the culture, for example, of the Space4Women Show. And that played a role in kind of me dipping my toes and then dipping my toes back out into this industry. Access to funding for space studies programs is another major challenge. We have these amazing institutions like UCL, International Space University, other amazing institutions, but if you are stepping into this slightly late, then you do have to think about how you can get that access to finance to realize your ambitions. And I'm going to delve into that in the next part of my presentation. I recently also had an issue with my ideas not being credited. And by that, I'm basically talking about your intellectual property being taken by other people. So that can happen, that does happen, and that happened to me. And that was a huge setback, because it really made me think that I can't belong in this industry because other people have now taken whatever it is that I've created. And added to that, of course, is lack of mentors. If you don't know about these amazing initiatives, and if you don't have certain skill set, I guess, or access, it's very difficult. And this, again, just feeds that imposter syndrome. And then the lack of technical skills required for industry today, such as knowing how to code, and that's based on data that came out from a recent space skills report conducted in the UK. So, how did I manage to deal with IP theft, not having a technical background, coping with my international relations degree and whatever it was I wrote back then, to ending up being a space and industry analyst at Bryce Space and securing a master's at UCL and being on the ISP this summer? Well, this is where mentoring played a crucial role in my journey. So I was introduced to the amazing Bianca Cefalo by Yewande Akinola almost by fluke. It was literally a a LinkedIn post written by Yuande, and she had asked for any individuals in industry to see if they could support me. And Yuande has basically got nothing to do with the space sector. She's an award-winning engineer. So that was a long shot for me. And I just kind of reached out to her, and she kindly helped me. And Bianca has been instrumental in my journey. I have never met Bianca in person. All of our interactions have been online, and she took the time to mentor me every Saturday, even outside of the Space for Women program, to build my confidence, because it all starts with that. For me, it's about having the confidence to own those ideas, own what happened to you, own your journey, and own your space here. And that's what she gave me. And that was so important for me at a time where we had just entered into a lockdown and my IP had just been stolen. So I just felt lost. And that was instrumental to me going out and then reaching out to so many other people in industry. As a result of those conversations, I applied to the Interactive Space Studies program this year. I applied to be a marketing assistant at UK SEDS. I applied for the Space and Industry Placement program. I applied for so many positions and started to be introduced to people in industry. And I don't think your mentor necessarily needs to give you connections or anything like that. Your mentor just needs to be genuine and understand you and have a, real interest in your growth and development. And that's what Bianca did for me. So I ended up securing a place at the International Space University's program this year, which was focused on how we can mitigate the impact of pandemics, also how we can prepare for them, and also how we can prevent them using space-enabled technology. And you can see here, this is just a sort of screen grab of the report that the Mars team came up with, or the design of the report there. And I honestly couldn't have been on that program this year had it not been for the support of the Space for Women community, especially the Space for Women Show community. So I needed to raise, I think it was €1,000, and I was unemployed. I don't get support from my family, and I'm also responsible for helping my sister, who has twins and doesn't have a partner to support her. So it was really, really difficult for me to think about how this was going to happen. It might seem like such a modest sum, but it was a tough situation for me at that time. I set up a crowdfunding page, and I got so much insight from Hien and also Bianca and also Yuandi, who literally said, you're not going to miss out on this based on like this small amount of money that you need to raise. And you're not going to miss out on this because of your imposter syndrome. I put this sort of crowdfunder out there. I sent it to people through my social media networks, and literally within 2 weeks, I had managed to reach my fundraising target. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I managed to do that. So coming from that non-technical background, it seems like actually it wasn't such a barrier that I thought it was, because all of the networks that I had made in the creative industry, which don't have that much to do with space on the surface level, if you think about it, I managed to raise at least 50% of my fundraising target through those connections. And so I really can't stress this enough about leveraging the networks that you have, which you may not even think have got anything to do with the space sector, to achieve your goals. Because those people were so inspired that a program such as this exists at a time where we all need to be thinking about these solutions, that they wanted to contribute to helping me be on that program. And I guess that really helped to flip that concept I had in my mind about, oh, you know, equations are not your thing, technicality is not your thing, to seeing how actually the creative networks helped me to essentially build half of my fundraising target and formed half of my journey. So I really want to kind of stress that point. You don't know who's going to help you on this journey, but be extremely open-minded and don't hold on to things that you don't have, and look at what you do have. And then I applied for the UK Space Agency's Space and Industry Placement Program, and I also managed to get that at Bryce Space. And half of the reasons why I got that role was to do with my background in policy. So that idea I spoke about right at the start was completely sort of irrelevant. People need to understand space, the space policy side of things, in order to help mitigate these challenges that the community is facing and industry is facing. And also I thought I'd put the fact that I got a kitten called Yuri, which served as a sort of, I guess, a memory for me every single day, to say, yeah, no, this is what you're doing, this is the industry you're in, and be inspired by the characters that you've come across in your research and your interest in this area, and also being part of communities such as UK SEDS.
Thank you. We're gonna wrap it up. We still have Q&As, okay? One more minute. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. And so what's next for me? I think, unlike most of the other amazing panelists, I'm still very early in my sort of space career and journey. So I need to actually complete that master's in space risk and disaster reduction. I will be presenting a paper which will look at the need for establishing a multilateral cybersecurity space regime to mitigate risks posed by cybersecurity threats in low Earth orbit. And I'm also working on a few ideas supporting women who might have issues to access to healthcare during disasters, and volunteering with the World Space Week Association, and also volunteering with the Space4Women Show to keep that energy and ecosystem around me, so that I can basically make that transition. And just thank you so much to everyone for allowing me to have this platform to share my journey.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you for sharing your secret sauce.
So there are, first of all, I'm like speechless. You know, in light of all these stories, they're just amazing, and they just show how much networking and how much the support network is essential to all of us, even for the senior ones. Let's just don't forget that we all have imposter syndrome sometimes, every day. So thank you very much for sharing the stories. And there are lots of messages about how great the stories were. There was a question that Anna started answering, so let me go back. So this question is from Martina. Actually, Martina, would you like to come online and ask these questions to all of our panelists?
So listen, well done, everybody. These stories are absolutely amazing. I work with adults in innovation, but I'm absolutely astounded by you all. So because I work in innovation, I look at you all and I want to know what way you see the future for, if you were to even add 10 years from where you are now. What support structures would you like to have in place to support people like you at an early age develop, technically or emotionally?
Thank you, Martina. Who wants to take this question? Chille, thank you.
So what I think is that I would love to see a support structure when I think it would help me a lot, especially for like a younger self of me, in 10 years, to have a support structure that instead of having these neurodivergent kids so that are put down instead of brought up. Because when I was younger, going through elementary school, everyone did not support, no one in my classes or even my teachers didn't understand or support me in my ideas or abilities. So to have that support structure would be a lot more helpful and a lot easier, because because back when I was very young, when I was 7 or 8, it was really hard because I wasn't diagnosed with autism or anything, so I didn't know what I had. I felt really confused and it would have been a lot better if like there was people supporting me in the school, and maybe then I would have stayed in school instead of dropping out if that was the case.
Thank you, Chille. Anyone else wants to add to the answer?
They have to introduce, like in my continent and in my country, they have to introduce space related courses to the curriculum for young children from an early age, because most of them, they never really know anything about space until when they're like adults. It's hardly taught in schools, and that it's from school sometimes that we get this inspiration. So they have to create this culture of like teaching them. So that's the first thing there. And then secondly, there have to be a more structured way of funding students that are interested in space career, like maybe a scholarship program for just space related courses, or any kind of fellowship for space related courses, just to like encourage them and inspire them. That's what I think.
Thank you, Nelly. Anna, I saw that you started answering the question. Anna Castro, would you like to tell us all about it?
Yeah, sure. As I said in the chat, I believe that mostly for developing countries, we need some practical tools. For example, placement in the industry, really get in touch with people that are already in the industry, or scholarship programs, like Nelly said, because we have many brilliant minds out there just waiting for an opportunity, and not every one of them can fundraise like we did, because they have families to support, they have other priorities right now. So these opportunities, they can be accessible, but they are not feasible for most people. So we must make them, I believe, in people with my background and with Nelly.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much, Martina, for your question. There is a question now for Nadia, which is about health. So this question is probably more technical, and it says, do you think we should prepare for a better health year before overcoming the issues that we can find in space environment?
I think that's an interesting one, because actually from the program, what I learned is that we have prepared extremely well for health issues from the space environment. I think definitely it makes total sense to invest in healthcare across many different governments, and definitely share data, allow for a lot more collaboration, and again, take some of those principles that we already have in terms of cooperating in space on the International Space Station, and leveraging telemedicine practices. We should apply more of that to tackling health issues on Earth. But I think that we all need to constantly do a better job for better health. And space can play an essential role in that, not just through creating new technology, but literally looking at the sort of principles and processes that already exist for astronauts and actors already in space. I think we shouldn't overlook that part of things.
Thank you, Nadia. So Simon asked a good question, which is obviously very relevant to this day. Simon, do you want to ask that question to our panelists?
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentations. So I'm sorry to have to bring this topic up. I know everyone's talking about it, but I was wondering what was the impact of COVID on your life, and also long-term for the space industry. How do you think it's going to be affected?
Who is taking this question, which is very difficult to answer?
And Nadia, I was thinking that the space program, the International Space University program that you did this summer was focusing partially on COVID. Can you tell us a little bit what you learned through the program?
Sure. So I guess if you're thinking about sort of the impact of COVID on industry, do you mean industry as in like the economic impact? Will there be issues around disruption? Then the short answer to that question is absolutely, and there already has been. However, off the back of that, the space industry is quite resilient. So we've also seen a huge growth in innovation and kind of a rush to send more experiments by private companies into space labs so that we can think of developing solutions to the issues related to the pandemic. And around that, you then delve into more kind of the legal matters around if you are finding solutions to these health-related matters in space through these labs, in terms of the geographical indicators, who owns that data, and who gets credit for it, and how do you then share that information? And of course, when you're dealing with these global challenges like the pandemic, which is affecting all of us, you have some kind of moral obligation to share that information, right? So I think the impact will be a lot around ethics, not so much economic in terms of disruption. You're not going to see a decrease in the number of satellites launched. In fact, we've seen an increase in the amount of spaceports proposed and activities proposed for space, because this has been a real wake-up call for industry, and not just the space industry, but the pharmaceutical industry as well, and the biotech industries, to leverage space. But it's going to be an issue of ethics, that ethical impact, and linked to planetary protection as well. You don't want to send people up into space who could potentially take COVID with them there. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I think the short part of that is the impact will be ethical, and that's where we will need Nelly's expert legal skills there to help mitigate that impact.
Thank you very much, Nadia. That was a great question. And it is true that there is a broader answer to this, and probably this can be covered in another event. So because we are running a little bit out of time, so I will take this last question, which is coming from Steve. Do you want to ask that question?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, great, okay. Really, it's, I think there are a lot of organizations and indeed individuals who would be very happy or even proud to be able to assist individuals with their career development, if not in a technical way in terms of mentoring, etc., but even by being able to make a contribution to crowdfunding projects. But my question is really, what's the best way of getting the word out to those organizations and individuals? Is it just through social media, or is there a more effective way of being able to do that?
Thank you, Steve. Who wants to take these questions? Anna.
On a personal level, that I fundraising both for my personal projects and also for scientific ones, like the mission with ESA. When it comes to the personal ones, I think the best ways are your social media. Is there like your network, is your net worth. Really just spread out the message through your social media, ask your friends and family to share. But when it comes to the industry and companies, the best way is targeting. Know who you have to talk to. Usually is the project managers. Usually they are the best people to target when you're trying to get companies to sponsor you. But maybe Nadia can talk more. She has the secret sauce.
Thank you, Anna. Nadia.
Thank you. No, Anna, you've made a really relevant point there, knowing who to target. But as I found with my journey, when I was fundraising, as I said, people from the creative industry just stepped up, and started to contribute to my campaign. So I think definitely try to reach out to the sort of usual suspects, so people in the space sector, but don't overlook who you already have in your network. I was on a program called the Fast Track 50 program with a company called The Dots, which run a series of events for the creative sector in collaboration with Google. And through that, I just reached out to a few mentors in that area. And so I can't stress that enough. People are really inspired by what goes on in space and the value that space brings to society, and they want to have a stake in that, and they want to even, you know, say something as small as, I helped to crowdfund this individual's campaign. So just be unconventional, I think, with who you approach as well.
Thank you, Nadia. Well, be unconventional, I think is probably the best wrap up for this for this answer. Thank you, Steve, for your question, and I'll give back the word to Ian now.
Thank you, everyone. This was a very inspiring show for us mentors. Stop almost cried showing some of these presentations, to be honest. Thank you for showing us that labels in any form or shape won't stop you from doing what you really love doing. And, you know, I'm speechless pretty much. I'm very proud for all of your, not just only your accomplishments, but who you are and how you show up in the world beyond yourself. I'm very proud of everyone. Been witnessing all of, and personally knowing some of you. It's been a privilege to be able to host you here today, and we hope to see you next week. Is it 22? Series 22 with our lead Malak Trabelsi-Loeb. She's going to share the quantum race and its implications on space security. So we hope to see you next week. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all of the show team to come together every week for the past 6 months to support this initiative. And would you like to be connected with any official UNOSA mentors, just go ahead and visit Space4Women UNOSA webpage. You can there apply for becoming a mentee and get more involved into also other initiatives that the mentors out there are doing. Keep up your great work and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you so much.